The vast observation deck of Celestara Prime shimmered with the light of 3 neighboring star systems, their radiance casting an otherworldly glow across the gathered dignitaries. Alara Miles adjusted her press credentials, a holographic badge that marked her as perhaps the only Earth journalist present at the Galactic Council Gala. The year 3247 SC after integration marked 2 centuries since humanity had been grudgingly welcomed into the wider galactic community. Yet, even now, Alara couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider, a primitive curiosity among the advanced species that dominated council politics. "Magnificent, isn't it?" came a voice beside her. The speaker was tall, nearly 7 feet with iridescent scales, where human skin would be a Mullerian diplomat, whose name Alara couldn't recall. "It's certainly overwhelming," she replied, her eyes drawn to the central dais, where council representatives were gathering. Rumors had been swirling throughout the station for days. An auction, something unprecedented involving a human. Alara had come expecting a routine diplomatic assignment, but now her journalistic instincts were firing on all cylinders. The grand chamber hushed as a slender figure approached the central podium. Another Mullerian, but this one adorned with ceremonial markings that designated him as an official auctioneer. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, honored guests, the auctioneer's voice resonated through the chamber. "I am Yev, your host for tonight's exceptional proceedings." His 6-fingered hand made a sweeping gesture toward a side entrance. "Tonight, we present an unprecedented opportunity, the first voluntary human auction in galactic history." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as a human male was escorted to the dais. He stood tall, despite his evident nervousness, dressed in formal attire that marked him as someone of importance on Earth. His dark hair was precisely styled, his posture deliberately confident, but Alara could see the slight tremor in his hands. James Harrow. Yev announced, has offered himself for auction under subsection 47 of the Galactic Commerce Treaty. As you know, sapient beings cannot be traded, except when they exercise their right of personal agency to enter contractual service. The Mullerian's mouth stretched in what Alara recognized as their version of a smile. The opening bid stands at 100 billion galactic credits. The chamber erupted in astonished whispers. Alara frantically tapped notes into her neural recorder. 100 billion credits was enough to purchase a small moon. What could possibly make a single human worth such a sum? "I must document this," she whispered to herself, slipping away from her designated press area and toward the preparation chambers behind the main hall. If she could somehow reach James before the auction concluded, perhaps she could discover the truth behind this unprecedented event. Security was tight, but not impenetrable. Alara had spent years cultivating sources across species lines, learning the rhythms and weaknesses of various galactic security protocols. A carefully timed movement during shift change, a press badge held at precisely the right angle. Within minutes, she was navigating the labyrinthine corridors behind the auction chamber. "You shouldn't be here," came a voice that made her freeze. Turning slowly, Alara faced a towering Kronar security officer, his 4 arms each holding a different security implement. "Official press documentation," she said smoothly, displaying her credentials, and adding, "The Council Oversight Committee has authorized a special feature on tonight's proceedings. I'm to interview the human subject prior to final bidding." The Kronar's compound eyes flickered a sign of uncertainty that Alara had learned to recognize. "No such authorization appears in my directives." "Perhaps your superiors considered it beneath your notice," Alara suggested, straightening her posture. "But I assure you the committee will not be pleased if their explicit instructions are ignored due to miscommunication." After a moment of tense silence, the security officer stepped aside. 10 minutes, not a second more." "Entirely sufficient," Alara nodded, proceeding toward the holding room where James Harrow awaited his fate. The human sat alone on a hovering bench, staring at his reflection in the polished floor. He looked up as Alara entered surprise, briefly crossing his features before settling into wary observation. "Another inspection before I'm paraded before the bidders?" he asked, voice tight with controlled emotion. "I'm Alara Miles, Earth Communications Network," she replied, taking a seat opposite him. "And I have questions that I believe many humans back home share. Why would any person voluntarily submit to being auctioned like property?" James studied her for a long moment. "You shouldn't be here. This area is restricted to auction personnel. And yet here I am." Alara activated her neural recorder discreetly. 100 billion credits as an opening bid suggests you possess something extraordinarily valuable. I'm wondering what could possibly warrant that price tag. "Perhaps I'm just exceptionally charming," James replied, with a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Harrow." "No recordings," he interrupted, gesturing toward her temple, where the neural implant pulsed with subtle activity. "Turn it off, or this conversation ends immediately." Alara hesitated, then complied. "It's off. But I need something, James. Earth deserves to know why one of its citizens is being sold to the highest bidder at a Galactic Council event." James leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What's being sold isn't me, Ms. Miles. It's what I represent. Access, influence, a foothold in human affairs that certain council factions have been seeking for decades." "Then why participate at all? Why not refuse?" His laugh was hollow. "Freedom is an illusion when you possess something everyone wants. I've been hunted across 3 star systems. At least this way I control some of the terms." Before Alara could press further, the door hissed open, revealing Yev, flanked by 2 security drones. "It is time," the auctioneer announced. His gaze shifted to Alara, compound eyes, narrowing. "You have no authorization to be here." "Official press documentation," she began, but Yev's dismissive gesture cut her off. "No interviews were approved. Remove her," he commanded the drones. As the mechanical guards advanced, James suddenly spoke. "Let her stay. As the subject of auction, I invoke privilege of witness. She will observe the proceedings." Yev's scales darkened in what Alara recognized as irritation, but he couldn't refute the ancient privilege. "Very well, but she will remain silent, or be ejected. The auction must proceed without interruption." Back in the Grand Chamber, the atmosphere had grown electric with anticipation. Representatives from various galactic powers had arranged themselves strategically around the central bidding area. Alara noted the distinctive blue-skinned Suvi delegation, the crystalline structures that housed the consciousness of the Bozix Collective, and the imposing Kronar military attaché. James Harrow stood on the central platform, illuminated by spotlight beams that made him appear simultaneously exposed and ethereal. Yev took his position at the auctioneer's podium. "Distinguished bidders, the auction for contractual rights to James Harrow of Earth now commences. As previously stated, opening bid stands at 100 billion galactic credits. The floor is open." 120 billion, came the immediate response from the Kronar attaché, his 4 arms raised in the formal bidding gesture. 150 billion, countered the Suvi ambassador, her melodic voice carrying effortlessly across the chamber. Yev's mouth stretched in that disconcerting smile again. 150 billion from the Suvi Confederation. "Do I hear?" 200 billion, interrupted the shimmering voice of the Bozix Collective, plus exclusive mining rights in the Cygnus Void for 50 standard years. The chamber hushed at this dramatic escalation. Not just currency, but strategic concessions were now entering the bidding war. Alara watched James carefully, noting how his expression remained carefully neutral, even as his future was being bartered. 200 billion plus mining rights, Yev repeated. "A substantial offer from the Bozix. Are there further bids?" The Kronar representative conferred rapidly with unseen advisors through his neural implant. 250 billion plus a non-aggression pact covering all Kronar territorial expansions for the next decade. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Such a concession from the militaristic Kronar was unprecedented. On the dais, James maintained his composure, But Alara caught the slight tightening of his jaw, the only indication that he was not as detached from the proceedings as he appeared. 250 billion and a non-aggression guarantee. Yev announced clearly, delighted by the escalating stakes. The Suvi Confederation, do you wish to continue? The blue-skinned ambassador rose gracefully. 275 billion plus unrestricted access to Suvi medical technology for the human subject's lifetime. James's expression flickered, momentarily interest, perhaps even hope. Alara made mental note of this reaction. Medical technology? Was James ill? Was that somehow connected to his decision? 300 billion. The Bozix Collective countered their crystalline structure, pulsing with rapidly changing colors, plus the aforementioned mining rights and a seat for the human subject on our Research Oversight Committee. As the bids continued to escalate, Ilara noticed a figure observing from a private balcony above the main floor, a regal being with a crown-like structure of living material circling her head. Even from a distance, Ilara recognized her Queen Averia of the Nexus systems, rumored to be the most powerful entity in the Council, yet one who rarely participated directly in its affairs. The auction proceeded with increasing intensity, each bid introducing new complexities beyond mere currency. Political alliances, technology, transfers, territorial concessions. James Harrow was becoming the center of a complex web of galactic negotiations. During a brief pause while the Kronar representative conferred with his superiors, Ilara managed to position herself closer to the dais. "What's really happening here, James?" she whispered. "What do you have that they want so desperately?" His eyes met hers briefly. "Information, Ms. Miles. The most valuable commodity in any civilization." He glanced toward the Bozix Collective. "But some seek more than information. They want the potential it represents." Before she could ask more, the Kronar returned with their counteroffer. 350 billion credits plus non-aggression guarantees, and, the attaché paused dramatically, shared governance of the Sol system's outer planetary defense grid. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Earth's defense systems had always been non-negotiable in previous treaties. That the Kronar would even suggest shared control was momentous and deeply concerning. James's composed facade finally cracked, anger flashing across his features before he controlled it. Alara noticed Queen Averia, leaning forward in her private box, suddenly more engaged. The Bozix Collective pulsed with rapid color shifts, their equivalent of intense internal debate. Finally, they spoke. 400 billion credits, mining rights as previously stated, and exclusive rights to test the quantum displacement technology that Mr. Harrow has theoretically developed, including applications for asteroid manipulation. Complete silence fell over the chamber. Alara felt her breath catch. Quantum displacement, asteroid manipulation. The implications were staggering. Such technology could potentially redirect celestial bodies, a power with both tremendous constructive potential and catastrophic destructive capabilities. James Harrow stood rigidly on the platform, his secret now exposed. This was what made him worth hundreds of billions. He possessed knowledge that could reshape the physical structure of star systems. Yev seemed momentarily speechless before recovering his professional demeanor. 400 billion plus stipulated rights from the Bozix Collective. A most extraordinary offer. The Suvi ambassador rose again. 425 billion exclusive access to Suvi medical technology and a formal alliance with Earth, negotiated in good faith with James Harrow as designated intermediary. Alara watched the calculation in James's eyes. The Suvi offer was clearly more appealing to him personally. It preserved Earth's autonomy, while still granting him access to technology he seemed to value. But the Bozix Collective wasn't finished. 500 billion credits, their shimmering voice announced. All previously stated mining rights and technological access, plus one habitable planet from our reserve territories to be ceded to Earth upon completion of the first successful demonstration of the displacement technology. The offer was staggering, not just wealth and technology, but an entire habitable planet. Earth's perpetual population pressures and resource limitations made such an offer nearly impossible to refuse. Alara had heard enough. This wasn't just an auction. It was potentially the most important diplomatic event in human history since first contact, and it was happening without Earth's government even being represented. The public deserved to know. Slipping behind a column, she activated her global broadcast implant, a specialized journalistic tool that bypassed local communication restrictions by routing through quantum entanglement nodes. Such broadcasts were heavily regulated, but Alara had long maintained this emergency channel for precisely such occasions. "This is Alara Miles reporting live from Celestara Prime," she whispered urgently. "I am witnessing what may be the most consequential event for humanity since our entry into the galactic community. A single human, James Harrow, is being auctioned to galactic powers for sums approaching 500 billion credits, along with political and territorial concessions that could forever alter Earth's position in interstellar affairs." She detailed the bidding as it continued, explaining the implications of each offer, while her broadcast reached millions across Earth and human colonies. The technology in question appears to be a theoretical quantum displacement mechanism, with applications for celestial body manipulation technology that could either advance human civilization immeasurably or potentially be weaponized against us. On the auction floor, the bidding war had reached fever pitch. The Kronar had countered with 525 billion credits plus defense grid access. The Suvi offered 600 billion with their medical package. Back and forth, the offers escalated, with Yev becoming increasingly animated as the historical significance of the auction became apparent. Alara continued her clandestine broadcast, aware that discovery would mean immediate ejection or worse. But the story was too important to remain untold. Suddenly, a commotion rippled through the chamber. Delegates were receiving urgent communications, their expressions changing as they viewed incoming messages. Alara realized with a mixture of dread and satisfaction that her broadcast had been detected and was causing exactly the reaction she'd hoped for. Earth's government was responding, demanding explanation, threatening diplomatic consequences. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were erupting in protests. The auction, intended as a controlled transaction among galactic powers, had become a public spectacle with billions of witnesses. Yev looked distinctly uncomfortable as he was handed an urgent communication. "There will be a brief recess in the proceedings," he announced, his scales darkening with stress. "Bidders, please remain in position." James Harrow, still standing on the platform, finally allowed himself a smile, not of joy, but of grim satisfaction. His eyes found Alara in the crowd, and he gave her the slightest nod of acknowledgement. As council security began sweeping the chamber for the source of the unauthorized broadcast, Alara slipped deeper into the crowd. She watched as James was approached by an aide to Queen Averia, who had descended from her private observation box. The Queen herself remained distant, but her interest was now unmistakable. When the auction resumed 30 minutes later, the atmosphere had transformed. What had been an exclusive, controlled event was now the focus of galactic attention. Yev appeared distinctly less confident as he returned to the podium. "The bidding will continue," he announced, though his voice lacked its earlier enthusiasm. "The current high bid stands at 600 billion credits from the Suvi Confederation with associated concessions." Before any bidder could respond, a clear voice rang out from the auction floor. "I call for suspension of these proceedings under Article 17 of the Galactic Charter." Queen Averia announced, stepping forward into the central area. Her crown of living material pulsed with bioluminescent energy. "This auction has grave implications for interspecies relations and galactic security that were not properly disclosed to the Council Oversight Committee." Yev appeared flustered. "Your Majesty, with all respect, the auction has been properly registered and—" "I invoke right of intervention," the Queen continued unperturbed. "As a founding member of the Council, The Nexus systems cannot allow technology with planet-killing potential to be transferred without appropriate safeguards. The chamber fell silent. The right of intervention was rarely invoked, but when exercised by a founding member, it could not be easily dismissed. James Harrow stepped forward on the platform. "If I may address the assembly," he requested, his voice steady. After a moment's hesitation, Yev nodded. "Distinguished representatives," James began, "what you've been bidding on is indeed revolutionary technology, but its purpose has been mischaracterized. Quantum displacement was never designed as a weapon. Its primary application is for sustainable resource extraction and hazard mitigation." He paused, looking directly at the Bozix Collective. Those who would weaponize it reveal their intentions through their bids. The technology itself is morally neutral. Its application defines its nature. Alara continued her broadcast, capturing every word for her increasingly massive audience. "I entered this auction voluntarily," James continued, "because I believed controlled disclosure through established channels was preferable to theft or coercion. But I cannot in good conscience allow my life's work to become a tool of destruction." He turned toward Queen Averia, his expression resolute. "I formally request asylum under the Nexus Accords and offer to place my research under joint Earth-Nexus oversight, with appropriate safeguards to ensure its peaceful application." The Queen's bioluminescent crown pulsed with what Alara recognized as approval. "Asylum granted," she announced. "The Nexus systems will guarantee Mr. Harrow's safety and facilitate the research partnership he proposes." Protests erupted from the disappointed bidders. The Kronar representative stepped forward aggressively, all four arms gesticulating in anger. "This violates auction protocols. We demand the bidding continue." The Bozix Collective pulsed with rapid color patterns that translated as extreme agitation. "Contractual expectations have been established. The human cannot withdraw." Queen Averia remained unmoved. "The right of intervention supersedes auction protocols when galactic security is at stake. The Council Oversight Committee will review the circumstances of this auction and determine appropriate compensation for legitimate expenses incurred by bidders." She turned toward Yev. "This auction is suspended pending full investigation. Mr. Harrow will remain under Nexus protection until proper legal determinations are made." The auctioneer's scales had darkened to an ashen gray, a sign of extreme distress among Mullerians. "As the Queen invokes right of intervention, I am obligated to suspend proceedings," he announced, his voice strained. "This auction is hereby paused indefinitely." Chaos erupted throughout the chamber as delegates argued, security forces mobilized, and journalists from a dozen worlds suddenly materialized, alerted by Alara's broadcast. In the confusion, Alara made her way toward James, who was being escorted from the platform by Nexus guards. "Mr. Harrow," she called out, "a final statement for Earth citizens." He paused, looking back at her. "Tell them that humanity's place in the galaxy shouldn't be determined by auction. We have more to offer than being the highest bidder's acquisition." His expression softened slightly. "And thank you, Ms. Miles. Your broadcast may have saved more than just my freedom today." As James was escorted away, Alara found herself approached by a serious-looking Nexus official. "Queen Averia requests your presence," the official stated simply. Alara followed, aware that she had crossed numerous diplomatic boundaries and likely violated several interstellar broadcasting regulations. Her career, possibly even her freedom, hung in the balance. Yet she couldn't bring herself to regret her actions. The Queen awaited in a small private chamber adjacent to the main hall. Up close, her presence was even more imposing, her bioluminescent crown casting shifting patterns of light across her regal features. Alara Miles, the Queen, stated, her voice melodious yet commanding. "Your unauthorized broadcast has created a diplomatic incident of considerable magnitude." Alara straightened her posture. "With respect, Your Majesty, I believe the auction itself was the diplomatic incident. I merely ensured transparency." To her surprise, the Queen's expression shifted to something approximating approval. Indeed, the Council has long operated with insufficient accountability, particularly regarding matters affecting newer member species. Her crown pulsed with thoughtful patterns. Your actions, while technically unlawful, have precipitated a necessary conversation about governance and representation. Will James Harrow truly receive asylum? Alara asked. He will. More than that, he will receive a position as Earth's first civilian representative to the Council, a new role created in recognition of humanity's unique perspective. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. His technology will be developed under strict oversight, with benefits shared equitably. You have my word. And my broadcast, the regulations I've violated. The Queen made a dismissive gesture. Times of transition require flexibility in governance. Your case will be reviewed by the Journalism Ethics Committee, but I anticipate they will recognize the exceptional circumstances. She paused. Besides, silencing you now would only validate the concerns your broadcast raised about Council transparency. Alara felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. Do not thank me yet, Ms. Miles. You have cast yourself into galactic politics, a perilous arena. Some will view you as a champion of transparency. Others will see you as a dangerous disruptor. The Queen's crown pulsed once brightly. Both perspectives have merit. 3 days later, aboard a transport vessel returning to Earth, Alara finalized her comprehensive report on what galactic media had dubbed the human auction incident. Public reaction across Earth had been tumultuous outrage at the auction itself, pride in James Harrow's technological achievement, concern about what his quantum displacement technology might mean for humanity's future. Her communication device chimed with an incoming message, protected quantum encryption source, unidentified. Opening it, she found herself looking at James Harrow's face. Ms. Miles, he greeted her. I trust your journey home is comfortable. More comfortable than I expected given the diplomatic chaos I've helped create, she replied. His smile was genuine this time. Chaos often precedes meaningful change. The Council has been forced to reconsider humanity's status. Already there's discussion of expanding Earth's representation beyond the single governmental delegate we've been permitted until now. And your technology, will it truly be used peacefully? That remains to be seen. But shared oversight is a stronger safeguard than any auction could have provided. He leaned closer to the camera. I have a proposition for you. As Earth's civilian representative, I'll need allies who understand both human concerns and galactic politics. Someone with courage and principles. Alara raised an eyebrow. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Harrow? I'm offering you a continuation of what you've already begun telling humanity's story in the larger galaxy, but with official standing this time. The Queen was impressed by your broadcast. I'll consider it, Alara replied, though she already knew her answer would be affirmative. The story of humanity's integration into galactic society was far from complete, and she intended to document every chapter. There's more at stake than most humans realize. James added, his expression growing serious. The auction was just the beginning. Powerful factions believe Earth represents either a threat or an opportunity. The technology I've developed is merely one factor in a much larger equation. What exactly is this technology? Alara asked. Your quantum displacement theory. What makes it so revolutionary? James hesitated before answering. In simplest terms, it allows for the manipulation of mass and energy at a quantum level, effectively displacing matter from one state to another, without traditional energy constraints. He paused. Applied properly, it could solve resource scarcity, neutralize cosmic threats like asteroids, even terraform inhospitable environments. Applied maliciously, it becomes a weapon of unprecedented destructive potential, Alara finished for him. Precisely, which is why I couldn't allow it to fall into unilateral control. His expression softened slightly. Your broadcast forced the Council to acknowledge the public interest dimension. For that, humanity owes you a debt of gratitude. After ending the communication, Ilara gazed out at the star-streaked void of hyperspace. The human auction incident had been resolved, but she sensed it was merely the opening chapter in a much longer story. Humanity's place in the galactic community was evolving rapidly, bringing both unprecedented opportunities and existential challenges. Her neural recorder pulsed, ready to document whatever came next. Whatever the future held for James Harrow, his revolutionary technology, and humanity's expanding role among the stars, Ilara Miles intended to be there, ensuring that truth and transparency prevailed across the vast expanse of the galaxy. As her transport ship approached Earth's defensive perimeter, Ilara noticed unusually high security protocols in effect. Additional patrol vessels, enhanced scanning procedures, clear evidence that Earth's authorities were taking no chances in the aftermath of the auction incident. "Attention, transport vessel," came a stern communication from Defense Command. "Prepare for enhanced security screening. All passengers will undergo identity verification and quarantine protocols." Ilara sighed, recognizing the inevitable bureaucratic complications her actions had triggered. Still, as her vessel was guided toward Earth's orbital processing station, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. The universe had changed in small but significant ways because she had chosen to act. The familiar blue sphere of humanity's homeworld filled her viewport, beautiful and vulnerable in the cosmic darkness. Whatever came next, Earth would face it with eyes wide open, informed, aware, and ready to claim its rightful place among the stars. Queen Averia stood on the observation deck of her personal vessel, watching the proceedings with calculated interest. The human auction had provided an unexpected opportunity to recalibrate power dynamics within the Council. For centuries, the established powers had manipulated newer species through economic and technological leverage. Perhaps it was time for that pattern to change. "Your Majesty," her chief advisor approached. "The human journalist has safely departed for Earth. James Harrow has been installed in the secure research facility as arranged." The Queen's bioluminescent crown pulsed with satisfaction. "And the technology?" "Initial verification confirms its theoretical validity. If successfully developed, quantum displacement would indeed revolutionize multiple sectors and potentially shift the balance of power significantly. Ensure that our scientists work closely with Harrow. I want regular progress reports." Her gaze remained fixed on the distant stars. "The other Council powers will not abandon their interest simply because the auction failed. We must anticipate their next moves. The Bozix Collective has already filed a formal protest. The Kronar are mobilizing additional forces near their Earth-facing outposts." The Queen's expression remained serene despite this concerning news. "As expected. Monitor their activities, but take no provocative actions. This situation requires delicacy." On Earth, the global response to Ilara's broadcast continued to evolve. Initial shock had given way to complex political and social reactions. Protests demanding greater transparency in Earth's galactic affairs erupted in major cities. Military establishments went on heightened alert. Religious leaders debated the theological implications of potentially godlike technology. In the United Nations headquarters, emergency sessions convened to address the implications of James Harrow's technology and his new position as civilian representative. "This is unprecedented," declared the Secretary General. "A private citizen without governmental authorization now represents humanity in an official capacity. The constitutional implications alone are staggering. Yet we cannot deny the potential benefits," countered the science envoy. "Quantum displacement could address climate stabilization, resource scarcity, even interstellar travel limitations. If developed properly, it could advance human civilization by centuries. Or end it entirely," the defense coordinator noted grimly. "Let's not be naive about the weaponization potential. Every major power, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, will pursue military applications." The debate continued for hours, mirroring similar discussions occurring worldwide. Ilara's broadcast had pulled back the curtain on galactic politics, forcing humanity to confront its precarious position among more advanced civilizations. As Ilara's transport completed its security screening and began final approach to the landing facility, she received another encrypted message, this one from an Earth government source. Ms. Miles, your presence is requested at the UN Extraterrestrial Affairs Division immediately upon arrival. Transport has been arranged. This matter is classified at the highest level. She acknowledged the message unsurprised. Her actions at Celestara Prime had thrust her into the spotlight as either a hero or a security risk depending on one's perspective. Either way, her exclusive knowledge of the auction proceedings made her a valuable asset to Earth's leadership. The transport touched down smoothly at the Manhattan International Spaceport, where security personnel immediately escorted her to a waiting government shuttle. No press, no public statement, just efficient, discreet handling that spoke volumes about the sensitivity of the situation. Within an hour, she found herself seated in a secure conference room, 50 stories beneath the UN complex, facing a panel of Earth's highest-ranking officials responsible for extraterrestrial affairs. Ms. Miles began the chairperson, a stern woman with decades of diplomatic experience. Your unauthorized broadcast from Celestara Prime has created a situation of unprecedented complexity. Before we discuss consequences, we need to understand exactly what transpired. For the next 3 hours, Ilara provided a detailed account of everything she had witnessed: the auction mechanics, the competing bids, James Harrow's revelations, and Queen Averia's intervention. So, this quantum displacement technology, the science envoy leaned forward. Harrow claimed it was designed for resource extraction and hazard mitigation, not as a weapon. That was his statement, Ilara confirmed, though he acknowledged its potential for weaponization in the wrong hands. The defense coordinator scoffed. Any technology powerful enough to move asteroids is inherently a weapon. The distinction is meaningless. Not to James Harrow, Ilara countered. His concern appeared genuine. It's why he chose auction over continued secrecy, to ensure some level of ethical oversight. The chairperson studied Ilara carefully. Your broadcast precipitated a diplomatic crisis, violated at least 17 interstellar communication protocols, and potentially compromised Earth's negotiating position with multiple galactic powers. Ilara met her gaze steadily. It also prevented the unilateral acquisition of planet-killing technology by powers that may not have humanity's best interests at heart. A moment of tense silence followed, before the chairperson continued. Queen Averia has formally requested that Earth recognize your actions as necessary transparency in service of galactic security. She has further suggested that you be granted diplomatic immunity from prosecution under communication regulations. This was unexpected. The Queen is advocating for me? Indeed. Her intervention appears to extend beyond the auction itself. The chairperson's expression revealed nothing. The question before us is whether to treat you as a rogue journalist who endangered Earth's standing, or as an unofficial diplomat who prevented a potentially catastrophic technology transfer. The defense coordinator leaned forward. What exactly did Harrow tell you about this technology's capabilities? Details matter. He was deliberately vague, Ilara admitted. But he implied it fundamentally alters our understanding of matter-energy relationships at the quantum level. Applied to asteroid manipulation, it could potentially redirect celestial bodies with minimal energy expenditure, a game-changer for both resource harvesting and planetary defense. The science envoy's eyes widened. If accurate, that would violate several currently understood physical limitations. The implications would extend far beyond mere asteroid manipulation. Which is precisely why multiple galactic powers were willing to bid hundreds of billions of credits, Ilara noted. After further questioning, Ilara was escorted to temporary quarters within the UN complex. Her status remained uncertain, neither prisoner nor honored guest, but something in between. Through her journalistic contacts, she learned that public opinion was similarly divided. Some hailed her as a hero who had exposed galactic machinations that threatened humanity. Others condemned her for unilateral action that might have provoked interstellar conflict. 3 days later, she was summoned again to the underground conference room. This time, only the chairperson was present, along with a quantum-secured communication terminal. "We've reached a decision regarding your status, Ms. Miles," the chairperson announced without preamble. "In light of Queen Averia's intervention and the broader diplomatic implications, you will not face prosecution for your broadcast." Alara released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "However," the chairperson continued, "your actions cannot go without response. Therefore, you are being appointed as Earth's special liaison to the Civilian Representative Office, effectively James Harrow's official press secretary and Earth government connection." "You're giving me a job?" Alara asked, incredulous. "We're containing potential damage while utilizing your unexpected connections. Queen Averia respects you. Harrow trusts you. These are diplomatic assets we cannot ignore." The communication terminal activated, revealing James Harrow's face. He appeared better rested than when Alara had last seen him, though still carrying the intensity that seemed his natural state. "Ms. Miles," he greeted her. "I understand congratulations are in order." "So it seems," she replied cautiously. "Though I suspect this appointment is as much about keeping me under supervision as utilizing my skills." The chairperson's expression tightened, but she didn't contradict the assessment. "Whatever the motivation," James continued, "I welcome the arrangement. The Civilian Representative Office is taking shape here on Celestara Prime, and having a trusted Earth connection is essential." "What exactly does this position entail?" Alara asked. The chairperson answered, "You'll serve as the primary communication conduit between Harrow's office and Earth's government. You'll also manage public information regarding the quantum displacement research and diplomatic developments. In essence, you'll continue what you began with your broadcast, telling humanity's story in the galaxy, but within established parameters. And if those parameters become too restrictive..." A ghost of a smile touched the chairperson's lips. "I suspect you'll find creative ways to navigate them, Ms. Miles. Your resourcefulness is precisely why you're being appointed despite the irregular circumstances." 2 weeks later, Alara found herself returning to Celestara Prime, this time with official credentials and a diplomatic escort. The station appeared transformed from her previous visit. Where before it had been a venue for exclusive galactic politics, now it bustled with representatives from dozens of species, many previously marginalized in council affairs. James Harrow greeted her at the docking bay, now dressed in formal attire that denoted his status as Earth's civilian representative. "Welcome back," he said, extending his hand. "Much has changed since the auction." "So I see," Alara replied, taking in the altered dynamics of the station. "Queen Averia's influence?" "Partly. The Queen recognized an opportunity to reshape council governance, but the changes run deeper than any single influence." He gestured for her to follow him through the crowded corridors. "Your broadcast sparked something unexpected, a galactic conversation about representation, transparency, and the ethical foundations of interspecies relations." He led her to a section of the station she hadn't accessed during her previous visit, an expansive complex dedicated to research and diplomatic functions. "This is the Joint Development Center," James explained, as they passed through several security checkpoints, "where quantum displacement technology will be researched under multi-species oversight." The central laboratory was impressive cutting-edge equipment from various galactic civilizations arranged around a central research platform. Scientists of different species worked in collaborative groups, their diverse physiologies requiring creative accommodations. "Implementation has already begun," James noted, with evident pride. "The Suvi delegation brought medical research that complements our quantum approach. The Bozix Collective, despite their disappointment about the auction, has contributed computational models. Even the Kronar have provided security protocols." "They've accepted the situation so readily?" Alara asked, skeptical. James's expression grew more serious. "Acceptance is too strong a word. They've calculated that participation offers more advantages than opposition for now. But make no mistake, every species here has its own agenda. They continued to a quieter section of the complex, the diplomatic offices where James would represent Earth's civilian interests. Your broadcast forced unprecedented transparency, he explained as they walked. Queen Averia seized the opportunity to institute broader reforms. For the first time, the Council includes non-governmental representatives from multiple species. Including humans, Alara observed. Exactly. Earth now has dual representation, the traditional governmental delegate, plus my civilian office. He smiled slightly. A model that other species are now demanding for themselves. Alara's quarters adjoined the diplomatic offices, spacious by station standards, with communication equipment that would allow her to fulfill her liaison duties. The UN expects regular updates, she noted, examining the secure transmission setup. As does every major news organization on Earth. Everyone wants to know about the technology and what it means for humanity's future. "And what will you tell them?" James asked, studying her with genuine curiosity. Alara considered the question carefully. "The truth as best I can determine it. That humanity stands at a crossroads, no longer an isolated species on a single planet, but not yet equal players in galactic affairs. That your technology offers unprecedented opportunities and dangers. That transparency remains our best protection against exploitation." James nodded approvingly. A perspective the Council needs to hear, particularly from a human voice. He hesitated before adding, "There's something you should know, something not included in any official briefing." His tone made Alara instantly alert. "Go on." "The quantum displacement technology that caused such a bidding frenzy." He lowered his voice, despite the secure environment. "It's only the beginning. What I discovered has implications far beyond moving asteroids or extracting resources. It potentially reshapes our understanding of reality itself." "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning that in addition to manipulating matter, we may be able to influence more fundamental aspects of existence, time flow, dimensional boundaries, consciousness transfer." His expression was deadly serious. The Council species who bid so aggressively understood this. They weren't just bidding on asteroid manipulation technology. They were bidding on the future of evolution itself. Alara felt a chill despite the comfortable temperature. "Does Queen Averia know this?" "She suspects. It's why she intervened so directly, not just to protect Earth's interests, but to prevent any single species from controlling such fundamental power." He sighed heavily. "I never wanted to be at the center of galactic politics. I'm a scientist, not a diplomat. But when I realized the implications of my discovery, I knew it couldn't remain private." "So you put yourself up for auction, knowing it would force the issue into the open," Alara concluded. "It was a calculated risk. I needed the protection of a power like the Nexus systems, but couldn't approach them directly without alerting others." He managed a rueful smile. "I didn't anticipate a crusading journalist broadcasting the entire affair across the galaxy." "Improvisation is one of humanity's better qualities," Alara replied with a hint of pride. "Indeed. And now we face the next phase together, ensuring that this technology benefits all sentient life, rather than becoming a tool of domination." He extended his hand again. "Partners in this endeavor." Alara clasped his hand firmly. "Partners." In the months that followed, the Civilian Representative Office became a focal point for Earth's expanding role in galactic affairs. James Harrow led the research initiative on quantum displacement, while Alara managed the complex information flow between the Council, Earth's government, and the global public. The technology progressed rapidly under multi-species collaboration. Initial applications focused on asteroid redirection for resource harvesting, a non-controversial use that demonstrated the technology's potential while building trust among participating species. Earth's status in the galactic community evolved in parallel. The dual representation model, governmental and civilian, gave humanity unprecedented influence in Council deliberations. Other species adopted similar approaches, gradually transforming the Council from an elite diplomatic body to a more representative galactic forum. Not all developments were positive. The Kronar military establishment grew increasingly aggressive in boundary regions, clearly positioning for advantage should the power balance shift. The Bozix Collective conducted secretive research that appeared to build on quantum displacement principles without sharing their findings. Various Earth factions demanded privileged access to the technology, citing national security concerns. Through it all, Ilara documented developments for Earth's population, maintaining the transparency that had become her trademark. Her regular broadcasts, now officially sanctioned, kept humanity informed about their evolving place in the cosmos. 1 year after the auction incident, a ceremonial gathering marked the first official demonstration of quantum displacement technology. Representatives from all Council species assembled in a secure observation chamber, overlooking an uninhabited star system selected for the demonstration. James Harrow stood before the assembled dignitaries, the nervous scientist still visible beneath his now polished diplomatic exterior. Distinguished representatives, he began, today marks not just a technological milestone, but a new chapter in cooperative development. What you are about to witness is the result of collaborative research across species boundaries, a model for how we might approach other challenges facing our shared galaxy. At his signal, the observation viewport polarized to protect sensitive eyes from excessive radiation. In the distance, a small asteroid approximately 2 kilometers in diameter orbited the system's star. The target has been thoroughly scanned and contains no life forms, James assured the audience. The displacement will relocate it to predetermined coordinates in an empty region of the system. He activated the control interface, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, without any visible energy discharge or mechanical intervention, the asteroid simply vanished from its original position, reappearing instantly at the designated coordinates, millions of kilometers away. The chamber erupted in astonished murmurs. No propulsion signature, no energy beam, no physical contact, just instantaneous relocation of a massive object. As you can see, James continued over the growing excitement. The process requires minimal energy input, while achieving perfect positional accuracy. The applications for hazardous asteroid diversion resource utilization and planetary defense are immediately apparent. He didn't mention the deeper implications, the fundamental questions about matter energy and consciousness that the technology raised. Those discussions occurred in more restricted settings, with carefully selected participants. Queen Averia stepped forward, her bioluminescent crown pulsing with ceremonial patterns. The Nexus systems commend this achievement and the collaborative approach that made it possible. Let this serve as a model for future challenges that transcend individual species interests. The assembled representatives applauded politely, though Ilara noted the calculating expressions on many faces. The demonstration had confirmed the technology's revolutionary potential and inevitably intensified the desire to control it. Later, in a private meeting with James and Queen Averia, Ilara voiced her concerns. The demonstration was impressive, but it will accelerate the power struggle. Every major faction will now pursue this technology with renewed determination. Indeed, the Queen acknowledged. But they will do so within the framework we've established, transparent, collaborative with distributed benefits. For now, Ilara countered. But history suggests that revolutionary technologies rarely remain constrained by initial agreements. James sighed heavily. She's right. We've demonstrated the basic principle, but there are applications we haven't revealed. Applications that could be far more disruptive if developed unilaterally. The Queen's expression remained serene, but her crown pulsed with patterns that Ilara had learned to recognize as concern. The Kronar delegation has already requested access to the core displacement matrix. The Bozix Collective is suggesting specialized testing protocols that would effectively give them independent development capacity. And Earth's government wants the technology for planetary security enhancements, Ilara added. Essentially weaponization by another name. James rubbed his temples, the weight of responsibility evident in his posture. We knew this moment would come. The question is how to respond. With truth, Alara said simply. We expand transparency to include the fuller implications, not just asteroid moving, but the more profound possibilities. Make sure all species understand what's at stake. A dangerous approach, the Queen cautioned. Such knowledge could accelerate conflict rather than prevent it. Perhaps, Alara conceded. But secrecy hasn't prevented power struggles throughout history. It's merely focused them on obtaining the secrets, rather than managing their implications. After lengthy deliberation, they agreed on a modified approach. James would prepare a comprehensive briefing on quantum displacement's broader implications to be shared simultaneously with all council members. Alara would develop a parallel public information campaign, ensuring that citizens across species understood both the potential and the risks. The strategy was not without peril. By acknowledging the technology's more profound capabilities, they risked intensifying the very competition they sought to manage. Yet the alternative, allowing powerful factions to discover these implications independently, seemed more dangerous still. 2 months later, as preparations for the expanded disclosure neared completion, Alara received an urgent communication from Earth. A classified military initiative had been discovered, an attempt to independently develop quantum displacement technology based on fragmented information from the Celestara Prime research. This confirms our concerns, she told James after sharing the report. Partial knowledge is spreading, leading to uncoordinated development efforts. If Earth's military has reached this stage, others have likely progressed even further. James nodded grimly. We need to accelerate our disclosure plan. The Queen has arranged a special council session in 3 days, all member species' highest-level representation. Will it be enough? Alara wondered aloud. Words and warnings against technology this powerful? Words alone, no, James acknowledged. But words backed by demonstration might be. What kind of demonstration? His expression was both resolute and apprehensive. One that reveals enough of the technology's true potential to make unilateral development attempts seem not just unethical, but existentially reckless. The special council session convened with unprecedented attendance. Representatives from every member species filled the grand chamber, tension palpable despite diplomatic protocols. Queen Averia opened the proceedings with formal gravity. Esteemed colleagues, we gather to address developments that transcend ordinary diplomatic concerns. The technology known as quantum displacement represents not merely advancement, but transformation with implications that no single species or faction can safely manage alone. She yielded the floor to James, who had once stood in this same chamber as auction property, and now addressed the Assembly as one of its most consequential members. Distinguished representatives, he began, the demonstration you witnessed 2 months ago revealed only the most basic application of quantum displacement. Today, we must confront its fuller implications. The chamber's lighting dimmed as a holographic display materialized in the central space. Complex equations and models rotated slowly, representing principles that few beings in the galaxy fully comprehended. At its core, quantum displacement doesn't merely move objects. It temporarily redefines the fundamental relationship between matter energy and dimensional space. James's voice remained steady despite the enormity of what he was revealing. Our research suggests applications beyond physical transportation, including temporal displacement, consciousness transfer, and dimensional boundary manipulation. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as translation systems conveyed these concepts across species' linguistic divides. To demonstrate, James continued activating a control interface. Observe this molecular structure. The hologram shifted to display a complex biological molecule rotating slowly. This represents a protein found in multiple sentient species. Using quantum principles, we can now... He manipulated the controls, and before the assembly's astonished observers, the molecule's structure rearranged instantaneously, transforming into a different configuration, without any visible transition state. Molecular reconstruction without environmental energy transfer, James explained. The implications for medicine, agriculture, and environmental restoration are profound. But the same principles apply differently. Another command and the holographic display shifted to show a planetary defense grid similar to Earth's, but abstracted enough to avoid security concerns. Applied to defensive systems, quantum displacement could render traditional weapons obsolete. Applied to stellar bodies, it could potentially trigger or prevent nova events. Applied to consciousness itself. He paused, allowing the implications to settle across the assembly. The technology that began as a method for moving asteroids has revealed itself to be something far more fundamental, a reconceptualization of physical law, with applications we are only beginning to understand. Alara, observing from a diplomatic press position, carefully monitored the reactions across species. Excitement, fear, calculation, awe. The emotional spectrum was as diverse as the beings experiencing it. James continued, his voice taking on added gravity. Our research consortium has identified 47 distinct applications with civilization-altering potential. Some offer solutions to our greatest shared challenges. Others present existential risks, if developed without appropriate safeguards. Queen Averia stepped forward again. In light of these revelations, the Nexus systems propose the establishment of a galactic oversight authority, not controlled by any single species or faction, but collectively governed to ensure that quantum displacement technology develops for the benefit of all sentient life. The proposal triggered immediate debate. The Kronar representative objected to restrictions on sovereign research. The Bozix collective argued for specialized access based on computational expertise. Various Earth factions transmitted conflicting positions through their governmental delegate. Throughout the contentious discussion, Alara maintained her live broadcast to Earth and human colonies, ensuring that humanity witnessed this pivotal moment in galactic governance. Public response flooded her feedback channels. Fear, hope, concern, excitement. A cacophony of human reaction to possibilities that transcended previous understanding. As the council session extended into its second-day, compromise began to emerge from the chaos. The proposed oversight authority would establish ethical frameworks and safety protocols, while allowing for specialization based on species expertise. Transparency requirements would prevent secretive development with verification mechanisms to ensure compliance. By the third day, a framework agreement had taken shape, imperfect but functional, balancing innovation against existential risk. Every member species would participate in governance with rotating leadership and carefully designed checks against unilateral action. When the final vote confirmed the agreement, Alara found herself unexpectedly moved. The journey that had begun with a controversial auction had culminated in a new approach to managing transformative technology, one that prioritized collective benefit over factional advantage. James joined her, as the council chamber gradually emptied, exhaustion evident in his features, but satisfaction in his eyes. "A year ago, I stood in this room as property to be sold," he remarked quietly. "Now we've helped establish a framework that might prevent any sentient being from being similarly commodified." "Will it work?" Alara asked. The journalist's skepticism never fully absent, despite her hope. Perfectly, number, power, and ambition remain constants across species. But it creates the possibility of a different path forward: technology development, guided by ethical principles rather than competitive advantage. Queen Averia approached them, her regal bearing somewhat diminished by the marathon negotiation session. "You both have served your species and this council with distinction," she acknowledged. "The path ahead remains challenging, but today marks a significant departure from our previous trajectory." As they left the council chamber, Alara noted the changed atmosphere of Celestera Prime. Where once it had felt like an exclusive enclave of established power, now it bustled with diverse representatives from across the galaxy, all engaged in shaping a future suddenly more fluid, more uncertain, but perhaps more equitable than before. "What happens next?" she asked James as they walked. Research continues, but with broader participation and oversight. The first practical applications, asteroid mining, planetary defense, will be implemented within months. The more profound applications will develop more gradually, with careful ethical review. And Earth's place in all this? He smiled thoughtfully. Forever changed. The auction that nearly made me property has instead helped establish humanity as essential participants in galactic governance, not through military might or economic leverage, but through our unique perspective and ethical contribution. Alara activated her neural recorder, documenting this moment for her billions of human viewers. 1 year after unprecedented events at Celestara Prime, she narrated, "Humanity stands at the threshold of a new era. The technology that nearly became a weapon of unimaginable power has instead catalyzed a transformation in galactic governance, one that may ultimately benefit all sentient life." She turned to James, including him in the broadcast frame. Earth's first civilian representative, once offered at auction for hundreds of billions of credits, now helps guide the implementation of technology. He developed technology that may reshape our understanding of physical reality itself. James faced the broadcast with composed dignity. What began as one human's research has become the shared project of countless beings across multiple species. Together, we face challenges and opportunities beyond anything in our previous experience. The path forward requires not just scientific innovation, but ethical wisdom, qualities that exist in all sentient species when we choose to embrace them. As the broadcast concluded, Alara gazed through the vast observation windows of Celestara Prime. The 3 star systems that illuminated the station continued their cosmic dance, indifferent to the momentous decisions being made in their light. Yet, something had fundamentally changed in how the sentient beings of the galaxy approached their shared future, a change catalyzed by a human auction that never reached its intended conclusion. "Perhaps this is humanity's greatest contribution," she mused quietly. "Not the technology itself, but forcing the conversation about how such power should be managed." James nodded thoughtfully. "Questions often matter more than answers. By questioning the auction's premise, you changed its outcome. By questioning traditional development models, we've shaped a different approach to technological advancement. And by questioning established power structures, Queen Averia has helped create a more representative council," Alara added. Beyond the observation windows, the vast expanse of space stretched into infinity, filled with mysteries yet to be explored, challenges yet to be faced, and possibilities yet to be imagined. In that moment, standing at the threshold of transformation, Alara felt both humbled by the enormity of what lay ahead and profoundly hopeful about humanity's place within it. The human auction that had never been completed had nonetheless sold something of immense value, not a person, but an idea. An idea that technology powerful enough to reshape reality should belong not to the highest bidder, but to all sentient life, guided by shared wisdom and collective responsibility. It was, Alara reflected, as she continued her broadcast to Earth's waiting billions, perhaps the most valuable outcome any auction could possibly achieve.